In this video I'm going to be running through the basic steps in drafting a shirt placket. I've done a video before on a shirt placket, but that was the hidden placket, and this is a more basic beginner's level of drafting a placket. It's impossible for me to run through all the different methods because depending on who you're cutting for and what fabrics you're using and what kind of market level you cut for, everyone has a different method, so I'm just going to be running through the basic steps. If you've seen a design that you've liked and or you've designed something yourself and you want to know how to construct it the best way, I'm happy to help, so send me an email or leave a comment below and we can talk it through. Just need to make a very quick point. This video is only going to work for plackets that you want the buttons right in the middle of the garment, so along the centre front. And if you want a fastening with buttons that are offset, so if you're doing a coat or a jacket where the buttons are slightly to the side, then it's not going to work. So this video is only for shirts or jackets with buttons in the centre of the bodice. Here I have two fronts, your front left and front right as worn, so I haven't got it the other way around, it's just left and right as worn. So I've got my right side here, and I usually do menswear, so I have my buttonhole side on the left bodice. So on my right I've marked these points and this is where I want my buttons to be. So along your centre front you need to mark the spacing of your buttons and just make a little cross or something. And on the left hand side then I'm going to transfer the placement of those buttons and just make a small marking on where my buttonholes are going to be, so they are directly on top of each other. So if you place the centre front on top of the centre front, you should be able to see that the markings are directly on top of each other. Then you need to decide on the width of your placket. Now depending on the button size you're using, that kind of determines the width of your placket. So I've drawn here a 2 centimetre size button, and here I'm just using this to show you. My placket is going to be 3 centimetres, so when I have a 2 centimetre button on it, I've got 5mm on either side of the placket left over. So this is what my shirt would look like. If you use a smaller size button, I've got a 1.5 centimetre wide button here. On a shirt placket in this width, you'll just have more spacing between the button and the edge. So if you have a small button, you can have any size placket you want, but if you have a big button, the minimum amount I think on either side of the button left over is about 5mm. So if you have a 5 centimetre size button, a 6 centimetre width of placket would be fine. So I'm going to use a 3 centimetre wide placket. So on my buttonhole side, I'm going to draw 1.5 centimetres on either side of my centre front. However wide your placket is going to be, the centre of that is always going to be on your centre front. So if your placket is going to be 6 centimetres, then you're going to have 3 centimetres on either side of your centre front. So this is where my placket is going to be, 3 centimetres wide. I'm just going to shade it in so you can see. So that is where my placket is going to be. So when you trace off your pattern, your front left is going to be up to that line, and then your placket is going to be from that line onto the edge. So I've drafted a copy earlier. So when I trace off this pattern, my left is going to be like this with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, but it doesn't have to be 1 centimetre, it's up to you. And this is going to be my placket, 3 centimetres wide. So this is the shaded area and this is my body. This needs to be on a fold as well, so it just needs to be the same width. So this is 6 centimetres wide with 1 centimetre seam allowance on either side. My buttonholes are down the middle, which is marked centre front. and then on the button side, which is my front right, the placket doesn't, the button stand doesn't need to be as wide as 3 centimeters, because it's going to be the underside anyway, because the buttonholes will go on top. Because this is going to be on top, that one doesn't have to be as wide. And so I just draw in, I'm not going to draw 1.5, I'm just going to do, let's say 1.2 on this side. So that can be my edge. And then what am I going to do is, I'm not going to draw a seamed on button stand, so it's not going to be constructed the same way as my front left, and I'll just show you why. So instead of 3 centimeters, I'm going to do my button stand 2.5. And you need to do 2.5 twice after the edge of your shirt, and I'll show you why. You don't need seam allowance on this edge because it's going to be hidden. So I'm folding the first section and then the second section, both at 2.5 width. And this is it, this is my button stand grown on. So when you sew the buttons through this point, this isn't going to pull out because the raw edge is going to be in there and your buttons are going to hold it down, and that's how it's finished. And as long as the edge of this is over the button position, so as long as the button goes through all the layers, this side doesn't have to be very wide. And that's it, that's your button and buttonhole plackets.